Good evening, everybody, and Merry Christmas. Thank you for hanging out in the lobby. We're about to go live with the 13th annual Hanks Brothers Crimbus Extravaganza. Again, thank you for joining, and the stream will start very soon. Thank you.
And Merry Christmas, everybody. Coming up on another conclusion to a beautiful year, 2021, a little better than the last one. Always glad, of course, as always, to be here, rocking it in the bunker this Christmas. And, of course, I brought along a few friends, as we like to do around this time of the year. You already heard one of these fellas over here, Caleb Hanks, doing our PSAs, hanging out. And you have a little friend over there with you as well, don't you, Caleb?
I brought one of Santa's little helpers.
Hey, Merry Christmas, everybody. 13th annual Hanks Brothers Crimbus Extravaganza live stream. I think this is the second year that we've live streamed, but we've been doing this thing for a minute. And if you're out there listening, thank you for spending Christmas night with us. The Christmas, not Eve, but Christmas post-Eve. So this is the beautiful Charlotte, but we also have another little helper in the studio tonight.
That's right. Yeah. It's been a year of travel and exploration for me. And I, as many folks out there who actually listen to my podcasts know, I made this incredible trip down to Brazil and spent some time in a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Chapada dos Veadeiros, looking for earth lights and strange things. But, it wouldn't have been possible had it not been for the very wonderful Dr. Rafaela Krasinski, who was my guide and who was my assistant and who actually is joining us tonight. Rafaela.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yes, it is so wonderful to have you here joining us. And we're all doing this broadcast from one single location. We can't tell you where. We can't even tell you if it's in North America or in South America.
I can tell you where it is.
Wait, hold on, you can?
Thousands of miles below terra firma in the depths of the hollow earth.
That's right, exactly, yes. We are in an undisclosed location, but we're very happy and we are celebrating Christmas and hoping you guys are too. Charlotte also back for another round. You put up with us last year and here you are yet again.
I've had many a potato since then.
Yes, indeed.
Many a tater.
Well, we love all those guys. And of course, we love to hear from you guys, as is tradition here. When we do one of these Hanks Brothers Christmas extravaganzas, we're going to talk here in a moment about the history of this occasion, why we do this, how it all began. And then we may open up the phone lines to take a few calls from some of you guys out there, because if you'd like to call in, we have a phone line here in the studio, and it's very festive. So we'd love to hear from you. But before we get into all that and put out the phone number, it's a bit of a strange tradition, I guess. It began many moons ago. I don't even know exactly how and why we did it. I just remember Caleb and I. Now, here's the funny thing. Little known fact, I started podcasting about the same time that Joe Rogan did, right?
Yeah.
And I remember Joe Rogan talking about this too. He said, man, I think we were on what was it like U Live or
Dude. So I actually have stories that I can tell if anybody was a fan of the Micah Hanks program back when it was the Graylian Report, this is some insider info that not a lot of people have. I remember right before Micah started GraylianReport.com, and we were sitting on the couch at our mom and dad's place, and we were coming up with concepts of what the website could look like. And so I was sketching out the layout of what the website was going to look like. And there was one layout where there was a Sasquatch walking through a forest. I remember there was another one where we were going to have like a Loch Ness monster kind of like going through Scotland, because at the time, flash animation was kind of a big thing.
Oh, yeah,
and I was always messing with that stuff with the website, with the website stuff, and I was always building like really weird websites. So we were kind of thinking we were going to go that way. Obviously, the website evolved into something a lot more sophisticated by the end of it, but I truly remember right before you were like, yeah, I think I'm going to start like a podcast and I'm just going to have my own radio show. And I was just ready to go and be like, dude, let's put Bigfoot on there. We could have him literally walking through the woods. That and again, that was a super fond memory for me because it was just like, dude, you have been doing this for so long. And that was before you set out on this adventure to like essentially be like your own pirate radio station.
Well, but again, it actually began for us in radio, working at the old alma mater, News Radio 570 WWNC in the studios. They would occasionally let me go in there and fill in host on Saturday nights. And that's how it kind of started for me. I thought, man, it would really be cool to do this more often. And so I started building a studio in my house. But again, coming back to Joe Rogan, it was Ustream is what it was called.
Yeah,
Ustream was the one that he said he used. And he's like, man, I remember the whole way that we started the podcast. He said we were doing it in my house at that time. People would come into town and I'd invite them out to show, see the shows and stuff. And I was just like, let's just go to my house and like record a show. And they would just go live on Ustream.
Yeah.
He's like, there were like 8 people watching because that's all you could have with like a free account.
Did we do that for the first Christmas extravaganza?
Well, yeah, we did. Yeah. It was either,
was it, that's what I'm saying. Was it Ustream or did we?
I think it was Ustream.
Okay. Cause I know that it was live.
Yeah.
But you were talking about going back to the origins of like why we do it. And I think what I interpreted you saying there is we're trying to figure out why it all started. But I genuinely believe that it started because of the weather. Because I remember the first year that we ever started doing it, it snowed really, really hard. And we were literally streaming out of your bedroom and good buddies.
Well, we were snowed in and we had 2 pals that got snowed in with us. Yeah.
And that was also really cool because our buddy Nick Honigman, who is dear friend, met the guy first day of kindergarten. He walks up to me and says, hey man, you want to be friends? And I was like, yeah. And Nick, he is very much still a part of our lives. He was living in Colorado for a while, but he's back now. And we went to his Halloween party this year, which was fire if you're watching, Nick. But
He's asleep.
we got snowed. Yeah, he's probably asleep. But we got snowed in, and Nick Honigman and our buddy John Hurley, I think they took Nick's Jeep that could get through any sort of snow. So they essentially drove like half a mile up to the house, half a mile, and we did the first Crimbus extravaganza. And man, that was a free for all the first year. If you think this is thrown together, the first year was insanity.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So we were snowed in and we had nothing else to do. And we were calling friends and people were calling in and they were playing songs and doing music, But again, a lot of people, of course, know about this and how we do it from hearing, the Micah Hanks program, the podcast and things like this. In fact, Dr. Krasinski, you learned all about this, and that's the reason you are here, is because you happen to tune in and you've been listening to the podcast, and lo and behold, now we're adventuring and traveling around the world. It's quite amazing. Glad that you could be here, by the way.
Oh yeah, sure. Huge fan, Micah Hanks, of your podcast and your Bloody Marys.
Yes, and of my Bloody Marys. That's no joke. Yes, indeed. There's a Bloody Mary right there, and
I have
a lot of garnishes as well.
I have to say too, it's kind of interesting because Micah, both you and I met our significant others on the internet, and it's kind of like I was always saying to Charlotte back in the day, it was like I was always casting this searchlight out like a lighthouse into the night. And just being like, if anybody out there sees who I am or sees the art that I make and it is super cool, let's have a meeting of the minds. And Charlotte didn't know anything about me and just randomly found me on the internet and was like, hey, let's go get tea. And then here I am 4 years later. So.
Well, congratulations. I think we'll lift a glass to that. And again, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are tuning in live, it is the Hanks Brothers Christmas Extravaganza 2021. Quite a tradition. And, every year I think that we do a slightly different theme. And this year, kind of what I sort of thought we'd do, this was sort of impromptu. We usually kind of recap what's happened over the last 12 months. We invite people to call in. We will open the phone lines here in a second as well. But something that I like to do is to kind of have a theme. And for subscribers of my podcast of many years, we will put out every Christmas a Christmas ghost story. And as we were running around in the studio and getting everything together, I know it looks like you just push a button and 3, 2, 1, you go. No, there's a ton of work that goes into even just doing a live stream like this. It's why I don't do it every week.
That's why Micah has to do it all, because we don't know how.
Well, Ryan Sprague and people like that, who actually do this every single week and who are doing these streams and having guests on and everything. It's a monumental task. There's a lot of work that goes into it. But anyway, I love having a theme. And as we were getting things prepared tonight, we were joking about this little doll. Dr. Krasinski knows about this peculiar doll over in the other room. The story was,
It's right here.
Yes, it's here. It has
it's here.
it has a bit of a life of its own. Yes, this little doll.
I'm serious. I am actually a little bit frightened to equate. Can we say the S word on?
Let's
I almost did.
Little baby poos itself.
Okay, that works. Little baby, yes. Actually, what it is, it's a little baby that it's a baby doll that you feed, right? And it's an interactive kind of like lifelike toy. And the thing is Dr. Krasinski actually got this as a gift for a coworker for her little daughter. It's really cute. But of course, us, I guess, in our demented minds, we're looking at this thing and thinking, oh, that reminds us of that story of Robert the Devil doll, the human-like doll that would run around in the...
But it wasn't just because of that. So Dr. Krasinski pops out little baby poos itself and hits the button on the damn thing, and immediately it's talk to the devil because it just started going and just like the scary stuff. So immediately, okay, and I'm serious. I am 100% dead serious when I say this. I will not joke about Robert the Devil doll. I will not say anything bad about Robert the Devil doll because Robert the Devil doll scares the living poo out of me.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Again, so we can't look at a doll as the point. I mean, here's this innocent little child's toy and we're all kind of laughing about it. And then we're like, oh, you remember that story about that doll that, he who shall not be named.
Yeah.
So let's talk about him. I want to tell you all about Robert the Devil doll.
Voldemort, and now I'm cursed.
Yeah, exactly. Doldem. I mean, you can't have this conversation. So, I think the guy's name was Robert Eugene Otto. This will be a great Christmas ghost story to kick off the night. Robert Eugene Otto, he had lived down around, I think it was it Fort Myers or was it?
I thought it was Savannah.
No, this was in Florida, and it may have been around. If it wasn't Fort Myers, again, we're just going completely off memory here. It may have been Clearwater, but anyway, so the story was Robert Eugene Otto was this man in Florida who had this doll who his parents had given it to him, at an early age, and as he got older, mom and dad were kind of saying, you probably shouldn't, keep the doll with you all the time, Robert, as you're going through middle school, high school. And then he's going off to college and he's saying, yeah, okay, I guess I should leave the doll at home. But as he goes off to college, peculiar things begin to happen. The family feels very unsettled by the weird little doll, Robert, that had lived. And of course, it had the same name that Mr. Otto had. So they put this little doll up in the attic. They're like, that thing's just weird, put it away. And they give it its own room up in the attic. Well, soon the kids who would be walking by the house, the story goes at least, that they'd be walking by and they'd see a little face that would follow them from window to window, And the story was that it was the doll supposedly that was, peering out the window and it had become animate and was moving around. And so when Robert Eugene Otto would come home for his, spring break or his Christmas break, very fitting, right? That he would, go upstairs and he would, revisit the doll and rekindle his relationship with it, I guess. So for many years, I mean, this story of this haunted doll, that lived on this particular corner and that people could see, moving around up there, supposedly on the top level of this building, kind of prevailed. And now in an actual museum, you can actually go and see this doll, Robert the Devil doll, as he is known. He's
Key West, Florida. Yeah.
He's Key West. Yes. Gosh. Yeah, exactly. Long day, ladies and gents. Yeah. So it's Key West, Florida. In that museum in Key West, you can see this little doll. And, I've heard all kinds of bizarre stories about even stuff that happens in the museum. I mean, there are security guards who have claimed that they've gone in there and that they'll come in the next morning and that at some point during the night, the doll has moved to a new position or something else strange has happened.
There's so many different things with Robert the Devil doll that are unsettling. And my introduction to Robert the Devil doll, I think this was a series on A&E or something like that. It was narrated. If you have ever seen the Poltergeist movies, the lady that's like, Carol Ann, look into the light. It was narrated by this woman, and obviously, like, her producers had been like, hey, just like sound as insane and scary as you possibly can. So in this particular show, she was like, her narration was literally like this. So when the family saw Robert the Devil doll crawling around on the ceiling, they immediately realized that they needed to sell.
Question: do you think she intended to sound that creepy?
I think that the producers told her, sound that creepy,
obviously,
or else.
But
Dude, that was how we found out about Robert the Devil doll. And then you hear what the actual accounts of it are, and it's like, oh my God, would you guys stop this? Because when I was a child, I was horrified by Chucky. Horrified. Now, at this point, I love Charles. I think he's quite the artist. But
Chucky?
Charles.
Chucky,
yeah.
Charles.
I call him Charles. He's beyond Chucky. That's a child's name. He has inhabited the souls of many people. He deserves the right to be called Charles now.
Okay, well, fair enough. Well, again, the mythos that surrounds the idea of an animate doll, this actually goes all the way back, to the idea of the homunculus, and all different kinds of things. Again, mythological portrayals throughout the centuries of taking something inanimate. Actually, probably the best one is the idea of the golem. Right? Yeah, that's the prototype of all this.
Dude, I'm gonna call you this on the air. Don.
Okay, yeah, you can call me Don.
Don?
Yeah.
That's me and Micah's nickname for each other. Don, what is the story about the golem in the attic of the church?
Well, see, this is where things start getting interesting.
This is where things start getting even creepier than Robert the Devil doll.
Let me just say for the record, by the way, I don't believe that Robert the haunted doll is actually a haunted doll. I think it's.
Don't you say that, because that's
you don't. That's you can't say it. What happens if I say that though?
I don't know, and that's why I'm telling you not to say it.
Yeah, we just don't want to take any chances.
It involves all of us.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, even Dr. Krasinski. We don't want you to get in trouble. You're just an innocent bystander.
Well, do you realize what's going on in the studio right now, though? Do you realize what's going on in the studio right now?
The doll just walked in here and just winked at us.
No, we have a vessel in which if Robert were to decide it wanted to project itself, it could come alive, and we already know this thing talks to Satan.
For those of you who cannot see Caleb's
my computer's sitting on it to keep it down.
Wait a minute, you guys actually brought the doll
it's
into
right here.
It's here. It's listening. It's probably sticking its tongue out.
It is here.
So, ladies and gentlemen at home, unbeknownst to me as we're telling this story, little baby Pooh's itself is sitting right there, and now we're all about to poo ourselves as well. Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!
And the visions of sugar plums are gone.
Yeah,
no more of this.
The visions of sugar plums have just run right through her.
Well, plums are really just prunes. So
right, yeah, exactly, yeah, prunes, yeah, vision. Well, really quickly, Bobby Justice, our man right there in the chat room there. Merry
Bobby
Christmas. J. Indeed, really good to see you, Bobby. Alex Costel also says Merry Christmas. We've got Denise there in the chat room. Merry Christmas. Casper Parks. Casper, haven't seen you in a long time. Greetings, humanoids, he says. Thomas Dunn also sends Merry Christmas, everyone. Great to hear from all you guys. Anybody out there who's listening, if you'd like to participate in the chat there via YouTube, we'd love to hear from you. Tell your friends at home that they can participate as well. We always like to hear from everybody, and we're still getting good. Yeah, good to see you too, Bobby. He just sent us a message. Coming back to the story of the golem, and we'll put the number out for folks if they want to call in here shortly. But, sticking with this again, I think, in my opinion, the golem is kind of the prototype, right?
Absolutely.
And the story, the most probably well-known of the stories of the golem involves, I guess, in the late 1500s in Prague. We had the Maharal of Prague, right? The rabbi, the Maharal, who was, one of the great, Jewish leaders of the community. And as the story goes, there was persecution that the Jewish people there in Prague were experiencing at that time. And so, as is outlined in the Hebrew Book of Formation, he went down with some of his assistants to the Vltava River, and they created the shape of a man out of mud. And then they inscribe on it, some traditions say it's on his forehead, some say that it's written on paper and then placed into the mouth of the mud man, but they write Mech. I'm probably going to butcher these, by the way, but Mech, which is like life.
Yeah.
And then when they do that, the mud man comes to life, and he's a golem. And so his name is Yoseli, and Yoseli the golem comes to life, and he's kind of a protector of the people. Well,
But this also plays into Robert the Devil Doll.
Well, there are a lot of different ways because, see, part of it is, see, Yoseli the Golem begins as like a good guy. He's a protector. But as he goes about his business, protecting the people of Prague and doing his good deeds, he becomes more and more unwieldy. And eventually the Maharal realizes, okay, we have to do something about Yoseli. He's getting out of hand. We can't keep him under control. And so you activate him with the Hebrew word, mech, but emech, you add that to the beginning and it becomes death. And this deactivates the golem.
Yeah.
And so they had to deactivate the golem. And the story goes, according to the legend, was in the Alt News Synagogue there in Prague, which was a building built like in the 1200s. Have you been to Prague, Haifa?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, you have? Have you seen the Alt News Synagogue by chance?
No, I didn't. And if I knew that before, I definitely would. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible building. I've seen pictures of it online, but yeah, so the Alt News Synagogue is where Yoseli the Golem was purportedly laid to rest. Now, this is all a legend as far as we know, but in the 1700s, there's this story of another rabbi who ascended, he fasted for several days. And the story goes that he ascends up into the attic where they laid Yoseli to rest, and they put him under all these different like scrolls and things, covered his body up, but hid him up there in this attic. In the 1700s, this rabbi purportedly goes up there into the Alt News Synagogue attic, and he went up and he came back down, and he wouldn't say what he saw, but they say he was as white as a sheet. I mean, he was just, terrified. And that many took this as confirmation that he saw the body of the golem or something laying up there. Now, again, I think that this is probably a mythic tradition, but note the similarities. They put the doll in the attic because it's misbehaving, and then it takes on a life of its own, very much like the golem legend in a lot of ways.
Here's the thing. So obviously the rabbi could have gone into the attic of the building and had some sort of personal religious experience.
Yeah, sure.
And what he experienced up there in his own mind could have been, something otherworldly to him. The other part of that, the flip side of the mirror that I like to think happened, is he rolls up in there and there's this golem. I don't know what the structure. I don't know what the structure looks like, but I in my mind's eye, I imagine
Golem's over there giving him the stink eye.
I just see the golem over there sitting by the window and looks back at him like, I've been up here for years by myself contemplating existence, and he sees this otherworldly being that gives him these death eyes or life eyes. I don't know what it is. And he comes down. That's what I want to think happened.
Oh man, that's even better.
What I think happened is he went up there, thought he saw some crazy stuff that he maybe didn't see, had maybe a spiritual experience in his own mind, came back down and was a changed man, which also completely fine.
Or maybe he came down, he's like, and they were like, what did he see? What does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Oh my God, it's up there,
But the myth is better.
Well, yeah, again, and that's the whole thing is, to me, these are all myths, but it's fascinating. Now, here's another one. Again, this is the obvious one. Again, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Man creates, he's attempting to create man, and he creates monster in his image, and then the monster runs amok, and he has to try and undo the damage that he's done.
But was he a monster?
Was he a monster? Yeah, or was he just
misunderstood?
Yeah, I think he was probably just misunderstood.
Well, we give things power, don't we?
Well, certainly. Yeah, absolutely. Just like they gave Robert the Devil Doll power, right? You're the one, Dr. Krasinski, that made us order this little doll, and now it's here. So what are we going to do?
Well, and that's sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead, Caleb.
Sorry, I just totally cut you off. But what I was thinking about is a longtime colleague, a buddy of ours, Joshua P. Warren. He grew up here in Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
He went down to Key West and he took black lights and ran them over Robert, and there were these symbols that he found in on the body, on the doll of Robert the Devil Doll, that looked very suspiciously similar to old voodoo runes, I guess you could call them.
Voodoo runes.
Voodoo runes. Voodoo runes.
Well,
and
voodoo markings of
voodoo
some
markings.
kind,
And so and that begs the question to me, what is it about this mental power that we bestow to inanimate objects that we also put within a picture of some sort of symbol that gives these things power? Now, again, all of this could be complete BS, but seemingly within the psyche of a lot of people that have been in contact with this stuff, and a lot of people that don't know anything about the potential voodoo implication of said dolls, these weird things start happening because, again, the whole myth is that if you talk badly about Robert, that bad things tend to happen. And this has been documented on multiple occasions by people that have gone to see Robert the Devil Doll in Key West. So my question is to the deeper side of this conversation. What is it about the human mind? Number one, we don't know anything about the power of the human mind. We think we do. We'd like to boast that we do, but we don't. Power of the human mind is insane. It's so beyond what we think we know. And so my question is, what is it about putting the power of the human mind with a symbol that somehow gives these things power?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, for my own part, I'm going with BS, but I mean, you know.
Might be.
no,
It might be, but it's more fun to think that it's not.
Actually, no, I'm kidding. I'm giving Caleb a hard time. I think a lot of what you outlined is fascinating. If you think about this in terms of, well, okay, best way I can actually phrase this. If you hear the story of the Philip experiment, right, where a group of parapsychologists are like, okay, let's go into an environment and let's create an environment where we know that there were no ghosts, and let's behave as though we expect that a haunting is occurring and we are experiencing things indicative, of a haunting. And let's just see what happens. And before long, poltergeist, this is the key term right here, poltergeist-like activity begins to happen, and they start experiencing what they would liken to as being the kinds of phenomena that people associate with a haunting. And they know good and well this is not a haunted house. There were no stories of ghosts here before we began to act as though there were, and now it's like it manifests and it's starting to behave. The environment is interacting with us as though a ghost is here. Now, this whole idea of a poltergeist, different from the idea of a haunting in the sense that a poltergeist seems to be something associated with individuals. There are theories about, and I love this theory, by the way. Here's the explanation. It's nothing having to do with ghosts or anything paranormal. It's just children going through, puberty or whatever in their teenage years.
Because puberty gives you mind hands that pick things up and throw them across the room.
Turns you into Jean Grey, right?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody goes through the Phoenix Saga.
Yeah, and you can just move objects with your mind. Simple. Nothing to see here. And I'm like, guys, yet again, the skeptical, if you can call that a skeptical conclusion. I mean, a real skeptic, I think, would say there's nothing to the claims of poltergeists. But again, that again is a long-held tradition that seems to, if not having actual corroboration, it seems to have a lasting, it seems to be a motif that has been represented in culture for a long time. Yeah. Again, I guess borrowing from the I guess poltergeist, right? Noisy spirit. So, but the premise here is that rather than actually being a spirit, it is a person who is somehow doing this, or unbeknownst to themselves, they are inadvertently causing this effect on the environment, right?
Well, that's the one explanation.
Right. And if that were what was happening, again, that's fascinating, because imagine if ghostly phenomena, or if, something like Robert the Devil Doll, what if this has much more to do with the human mind? And that also could take one of two, paths. One, it could be that a person is literally creating paranormal phenomena, and we don't know the mechanism by which that occurs. Or maybe the person believes that they are experiencing it, and it's all happening in the mind. But either way, I'm getting the eye right there from Dr. Krasinski. So, and the specific look you were giving me, by the way, was with regard to me saying it all occurs in the mind.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Just go ahead, because I would love to make some questions right after you finish.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, did I mention that Dr. Krasinski is here with us all the way from Brazil? We won't say where in Brazil. It's a bunker deep below Brazil.
Everybody that's associated with this program gets their own bunker.
They get their own bunker. Yeah, but no, essentially that kind of completes the thought. Let's go with the more skeptical and what I would call a legitimate skeptical interpretation. What if indeed this is something that stems from the mind, but it's not the mind, the human mind, creating some paranormal phenomena? It is simply the mind believing that it's experiencing paranormal phenomena, which in fact is more like wish fulfillment rather than, mutant powers. Charles Xavier. I'm a mutant and I can move things with my mind.
Doctor, if you have any thoughts on this, I'd love to hear it. But I also have some thoughts as well.
Absolutely. You first, Doctor.
No, that's funny because right before we started, I was reading this article on the Sun explaining the story about Robert the Devil doll.
Uh-huh.
And it says not only that people that's been in contact with the doll has experienced phenomenal things, but electronic devices have malfunction close to the doll and stuff like that. So I think it's a little bit beyond our perception of I don't know, a weird phenomena or anything like that. It might be something that we cannot explain happening even with our technology, just like Caleb was saying. So, and we can actually apply that to other things that we cannot, understand or anything like that. We can bring that to other situations like ghosts and stuff like that.
Well, again, this is something that I guess the long-held contention of the proponents of paranormal phenomena, they would say, well, it's one thing if you say it's all in our mind, but if electronic devices are affected by it, if cameras don't function, if batteries seem to be drained, if an electromagnetic field detector appears to pick up something, we don't know what that is. It's harder to say that this is all in our mind if there are devices that appear to be affected in the environment as well.
Well, see, that's why I feel like there's so let's look at paranormal phenomena as, and I'm not saying this in a negative connotation. What I'm saying is let's look at paranormal phenomenon as a symptom, okay? And so you have all these different symptoms that have overlapping regular occurrences, okay? So
Sure.
ghost activity, the what's it called when things are moving around by themselves? Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Sorry. Brain fart. It's been a long
We've
day.
only been talking about it for the last 10 minutes.
I know. I have brain farts often. I got brain gas. All right. So you look at all these different
mental flatulence.
You look at all these different things that seem to have the same symptoms, but then again, there's some inconsistencies with the parameters in which these things are happening. Number one being, okay, so let's say that a teenage girl is going through puberty and her brain is going crazy, and so there's all sorts of like paranormal phenomenon happening around her, and like dishes are flying off the kitchen sink and breaking and all that. Okay, well, what if you have the same situation where there are no teenage females or teenage boys going through these things? I've heard of poltergeist activity happening in households where there was no one going through puberty or anything like that. So I feel like it's...
Yeah, they call that a haunting.
Yeah, it's called a haunting. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, okay, so is that a ghost, or is the paranormal activity associated with the I keep forgetting the
poltergeist?
Poltergeist. I don't know why I keep forgetting
Just
that.
Remember poltergeist. It's like what you had for it's like kind of like what you had for lunch today. Poultry, but guys, poultry guys. Yeah.
It reminds me of the Reynolds Mansion book that Micah wrote, and the little girl that shows up on the porch at the Reynolds Mansion that a lot of people have gone there and seen. It's like,
oh yeah,
the people that don't know anything about said haunting at this Reynolds Mansion, I'll just tell the story very, very briefly. Essentially, the haunting is that there's this little girl that will show up on the porch, and she's just kind of playing by herself. And most of the time when people come up and see this little girl, she will not interact with them at all. She kind of acts like she doesn't even hear them. Like
it's almost, it's like she's in her own kind of space-time bubble, and she's carrying out these actions, which I don't know if this is the kind of term that everyone would use. And it's funny because, again, what we're, kind of riffing on tonight, the idea of, Christmas ghost stories, this has led us to all this paranormal discussion. I don't focus on this kind of thing a lot. So all the paranormalists out there in the audience, I apologize in advance, but I guess one that some would have used for this would be a repeater, right? Some sort of a replaying of past events that somehow bleeds over, or like a time slip might be another one. But go ahead.
Or a time loop or something like that. But there seems, again, it's all of these similar symptoms, yet we have all of these other like explanations, and they seem to kind of overlap and they seem to make sense, but literally none of it makes sense. And again, like Micah and I, when we started out looking into anything paranormal, of course we were using Geiger counters, we were using some of the like higher end stuff, the tri-field EMF detectors and things like that. But again, this is not an exact science. There are no complete consistencies in which we saw in any of this stuff. There's really truly no way to equate it. And the other thing that's problematic about how paranormal, at least ghost instances or occurrences or encounters are perceived as, it's also very much subjective unless you have a group of people that are kind of seeing the same thing. And again, we have associates that have been, at least 2 people, Brian Irish and Josh Warren, that witnessed some pretty incredible stuff with a tri-field EMF detector.
Well, and again, now this coming back to what you were talking about, Dr. Krasinski, when there's something else in the environment that seems to present a record of the phenomena occurring, and in that instance, one of the most famous, there was a tri-field natural EM meter, which apparently turns itself over. The thing's sitting up like this, and then it like falls over onto the side of the chair, and then it sets itself back up. And this was all on camera. Now, what's significant about this is that the way that this device is designed, a tri-field natural electromagnetic field meter can detect electromagnetic fields in a variety of different bandwidths, I guess, or frequencies, radio microwave, and you can pick up natural EMFs, and you can pick up what are some of the other ones? Geomagnetic, I guess, magnetic fields produced, the actual field produced by the earth.
But it also has an audio signal, which is different from a lot of the electromagnetic field meters.
Right. Yeah.
So if you set it across the room and you walk up to it, you will hear the meter make a high-pitched noise that you will set off with your electromagnetic field from your body.
Right. Yeah. So if, a natural EM field setting, if you dial it to that, which allows it to pick up, I guess, the bioelectric, field that's produced by a living body, a dog, a cat, a human, whatever, that's what most paranormalists would use it for. Now, let me just, brief notes and aside. We've done a lot of research over the years down at Brown Mountain. I'm fascinated with the earthlight phenomena. I've been telling Dr. Krasinski about this, and Caleb, you and I have been down there. Charlotte, have you ever been down there to Brown Mountain before? You haven't done this yet? Okay.
No, I actually took her to.
well, but we haven't seen the lights.
We haven't seen the lights. Well, she's been down there.
Many people go down there. Very few actually see the lights. Okay,
Right.
but so the point is that I've gone down there many times over the years. The tri-field natural EM meter is really good for detecting anomalous plasmas, because when you have earth lights, ball lightning type plasmas, things like this, they also produce an electromagnetic field, and very much like lightning would. And so if you buy one of these tri-field meters, what it actually says in the handbook is this device has been described as being useful by those who study natural luminous phenomena in nature and, quote unquote, for lack of a better term, UFOs. So again, because really, if you think about it, even if it's something like ball lightning, whatever's manifesting down at Brown Mountain, I mean, these are unidentified objects. They're aerial phenomena, so we might call them UAP by today's standards. The military prefers this term, or UFOs. All that said, again, a natural field produced by a body is detectable by this device too. So if you put that in a room all by itself and you're standing 12 feet away, and the tri-field meter suddenly starts going, woo, and it's picking up.
And then falls over on its face and then up on its side.
And this is precisely what happens in this video. You hear first the audible tone, the pitch increases as presumably a body would be moving close to it.
And Brian, who was holding the camera and filmed this, I'm fairly certain.
I think it was Brian, probably.
I'm fairly certain the camera was not on the tri-field at the time. He was filming something else. And so when that audible cue starts ascending, the camera rolls over and hits towards the tri-field. And right as he gets the tri-field in frame, he sees that damn thing fall forward and then up on its side, which is a very strange way of falling for that particular device. And I remember Josh Warren talking about it's a pretty expensive piece of equipment, and he said he pushed that thing and knocked it over and tried to get it to do that, and he said he never got it to quite recreate exactly how it happened. And again, it was sitting there by itself on a chair in what was reported to be an incredibly haunted location.
Yeah, again, here's the whole thing. I mean, they're in a allegedly haunted house, and it'd be one thing if the meter just makes some noise. It'd be another thing if it just happens to fall over and they catch that on camera. Again, while they're filming, they hear the tone and they're like, okay, well, what's happening with the meter? And they bring the camera back over to see why it's making the noise, just in time to see the thing fall over. And then it goes like this and sets itself back up. And it's just like, okay, so what's going on here?
The ghost of Christmas past.
I think it's a devil doll. Folks in the chat room are actually chiming in on this. Casper
Yes,
Parks
thank
here
you.
says, film magic, film featuring Anthony Hopkins. That was weird. Let's see here. Arlene Adkinzel, love this conversation. We do too, Arlene. Thanks for listening. Merry Christmas. We've also got Straud Sierk. Merry Christmas. Is that Welsh, by the way? Not entirely sure. Bobby asks, have you guys seen a spirit before in person? Well, I have seen spirits before, but only in a glass. Yeah, that's a different kind of spirit, I think. Yeah. Arlene says, my family home was haunted. What you described as a repeater. The man's actions never changed regardless of what he had going on, but completely harmless. Very interesting.
Interesting.
You know, it might be a good time right now actually to bring in the perspectives of a few of you at home. If anybody at home would like to call in and participate in the conversation, our theme this 2021 edition of the Hanks Brothers Christmas Extravaganza is Christmas ghost stories. Now, you may be more on the skeptical side like I am. You may be more open-minded like Dr. Krasinski is. You may actually have a golem in your house like Caleb Hanks does.
You never know.
You never know. If you want to participate in the conversation, you can, of course, engage with us through the chat right there via YouTube. And, of course, we have a phone line, too. So if you want to be old-fashioned, we always enjoy the phone calls and love to hear from people. 828-398-4886 is the number. You can call us and participate in the program by calling via a standard landline, or, in fact, we're going to allow tonight mobile phones as well. Welcome to the 21st century, ladies and gentlemen. It's not the old days. Art Bell, please turn your radio down, ma'am. Please, please. All right, now, what's on your mind? No, you can actually call us 828-398-4886. We'd love to hear from you. We'll put those numbers out again here in a bit. And the conversation will continue in the meantime until we hear from you, or, of course, until we just get tired and it's ready to call it night. You know, over here on the East Coast, it's 11:51. We are nearing the end of Christmas Day. It has been a beautiful Christmas day. I must say, it's also been a unseasonably warm Christmas day. It was almost 70 degrees here.
I think it was 70.
Yeah, I mean, that's not like, winter wonderland kind of weather exactly, is it? What's the temperature like down there in Brazil right now, Dr. Krasinski? Yeah, check your app because I'm interested in knowing. I mean, I know right now, of course, this time of the year is, our winter time. It would be summer down there in Brazil. But the point is, it's hot there, and I don't think you probably expected it would be quite as warm here in the, let's see here. Arlene says it was 68 here in eastern Tennessee where she is. Yeah, that was about what it was here, Arlene. Yeah, absolutely. What's the temperature right now in Brazil?
So in my bunker,
In your bunker, yes.
in my bunker, it's around 16 degrees Celsius, which is in Fahrenheit around,
60?
60, yeah.
Is it?
Well,
Let's do
probably
a
more than
conversion.
that.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit more than that. Yeah. So, and you know what? It looks like we already have a telephone call coming through here. Before we go to the break, let's go ahead and try and get one call in here really quickly because I think we have an 828 caller calling in. Let's see if we can get them here in on the call with us. 828, you are now live with us tonight. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, it's Bobby. Just want to say hi, guys.
Bobby, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay. Good to see y'all.
Well, it's good to hear your voice too. Now, again, ladies and gents, Bobby, I've known since I was about, how old, Bob? Bobby, it was about 5 years old when we met.
Yeah, it was about 5.
That was a long time ago. Quite a while indeed. So did you have a good Christmas?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had a pretty good Christmas. Like you said, the weather was beautiful today. So
Yeah, again, I can't complain. It was definitely warmer than I probably would have preferred, but it was also good for sitting outside, basking in the sun and talking with family. And, really, the older I get, the more I realize that's what I'd rather be doing on Christmas anyhow.
Hey, Bobby, this is Caleb.
I
Dude, I
Caleb.
would be talking to you in the chat, but I'm on a new computer, so it didn't let me create an account, or I'd be chatting
gosh.
with you, man.
We'll fix that.
It's all good.
Hey, this is your second year in a row calling in to the Hanks
Yeah, I
Brothers
know,
Christmas
right?
Extravaganza.
Well, I
So,
had it pop up on my phone. I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta jump in here.
hey, I just want to say thank you for being a mainstay for the past 2 years on the show, man. It's always great to hear from you, buddy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I love to talk to y'all, and like I said, I subscribe and hit the bell. Everybody do that if you haven't already. And
Thank you
pops
so much.
up and I have to jump in.
Absolutely. Well, Brother Bobby, it's always really great to hear from you and everything. And certainly hope that you and your family have had a wonderful Christmas and that indeed 2022 has many wonderful things in store for you as we look ahead. It's been a strange couple of years, but again, man, good to hear that you're thriving and doing well out there. And of course, hope everybody else is as well.
Yeah, yes, sir. I hope you all have a good New Year's and hope you had a good Christmas.
Absolutely, brother. All right. Excellent. Well,
Take care.
Yeah, you too, man. Yeah, we won't keep you up too late. We'll let you go, Bobby, but thank you again for calling in.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.
Excellent. Well, guys, I think it's about time right now. We are going to take a very quick break, and then the Hanks Brothers Christmas Extravaganza will return again right here. We have, of course, much more to get into tonight, and of course, a lot of things on our mind. Christmas ghost stories are our theme this year, and so we have a few more of those that we will be sharing, and we want to hear from you. Again, that number, if you'd like to call in here, 828-398-4886. And you can participate in the chat. Alex Costel says the weather out here in San Diego was pretty raining. Well, raining, I guess, is better than some things. There's been some pretty violent weather in recent days in various places. So, Alex, hope you're doing really well. Mothman46 there in the chat room just says, fantastic. I agree. On that note, we're going to take a fantastic break. Be back in a couple of minutes. The Hanks Brothers Christmas Extravaganza 2021 will continue here in just a moment. Stay tuned.
Try that.
All right. Welcome back. Looks like we are getting back into the gears. Wait a minute. Get back. How do you do that? You get back into gear, get back, get back.
Whatever you
Get back.
It's your show, dude. Do whatever you want.
I know, right? Exactly. It's Christmas and we're just having some fun. That's really what it's all about. I'm getting, oh, hello there. I'm getting private messages from our participants here.
Oh, honey, how nice.
It is. It's so nice, isn't it? Indeed. Tonight we are talking about Christmas ghost stories in our impromptu Christmas adventure, because that's exactly what it always is here with the Hanks brothers every Christmas. Well, maybe not every Christmas, but semi-annually. We like to get together, have some fun. Hope you guys are all having fun wherever you are. I know we're seeing some folks there in the chat room who are joining us tonight from the West Coast, some from a little closer, a little west of us, but over across the Tennessee border.
West of the Rockies.
That's right, west of the Rockies. Just dial. Actually, we'll give out that number again. If you'd like to call in and join us, 828-398-4886 is the way to join our Christmas extravaganza. You know, I've actually heard from a few people who might call in. I don't want to name them because then they'll be put on the spot. And if you happen to be at home listening, I don't want you to feel obligated at midnight to have to call in. But if you are awake and you are aware of this broadcast and you'd like to participate, that is the way to do it. Again, that number is 828-398-4886. We always love to hear from you, especially on this occasion, if you have a ghost story you'd like to share. Have you had a personal experience of your own with something uncanny, maybe even around the holidays? Those are the stories we are looking for and the kind that we want to hear tonight. I don't know if I've had a ghost story or a ghostly kind of occurrence happen personally on the holidays around Christmas time, but you do hear these kinds of things. And really, again, drawing from tradition, ghost stories are quite a intimate part, really, of the history of Christmas celebrations. For instance, again, as we discussed with the idea of, and Alex Costel, by the way, mentioning in the chat there. Oh, Caleb's in there. Good. Okay, so now Caleb's
made
in
it
there.
work.
Yeah, you made it work. So now Caleb, my brother and extraordinary tech genius, he can be helping out there in the chat room a little bit. Yeah, good to see him in there. But again, you know, the traditions of ghost stories being told in the British Isles, this sounds really weird to a lot of modern, you know, especially in the United States. A lot of people would think this was very strange, but it used to be very commonplace that ghost stories were told on Christmas Eve. And I don't know exactly why you would ever want to get rid of that, you know, why that wouldn't continue to be a tradition. I think, you know, having your pants scared off of you on Christmas is a great time to, you know, right, or a great way to celebrate Christmas. So then, of course, we also have Charles Dickens, you know, and the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. So again, you know, the paranormal used to at some point in time be very kind of associated, you know, really kind of an integral part of the Christmas tradition. And yet we lost that along the way. I'm not sure exactly why these ghostly aspects of Christmas went the way of the dinosaurs. I'll tell you something else that's strange, and that in various cultures they find very normal, that we would consider to be very strange. Again, today, modern Americans especially thinking of ghosts and, you know, in relation to Christmas, that's kind of strange. Well, when you go to the, you know, various cultures around the world and see how they celebrate Christmas, you find some very strange things. You know, Catalan, for instance, we find the Tio de Nadal, okay? If you've never heard of this, this is one of the most peculiar traditions associated with Christmas that I've ever seen.
Go on, Pee-wee.
Yeah, Tio de Nadal is a little log, a little Christmas log, kind of like a Yule log, but not
Down
quite.
in a log.
Yes.
Sing it, babe.
Yeah. Tio de Nadal, you know, they have the little log who's sitting there on the fireplace, and they drape a little like a blanket over him, I guess, a little red blanket to keep him warm so he doesn't get cold and everything. He's got like a happy smiley, like kind of like a Mr. Hanky kind of smile.
Yeah.
And so Tio de Nadal is this little log with a little blanket to keep him warm, and he sits by the fire and he just hangs out all through Christmas. And in the days leading up to Christmas, this is going to sound very familiar, of course, with regard to our little doll here. They feed the little Tio de Nadal log. They feed him, and then when Christmas arrives, what happens according to tradition? Yeah, that's right.
You're killing me right now.
This is true, though. Yes, in the Catalan tradition, Teodane Nadal then relieves himself and produces the gifts. Yes, because everything that it's physics, right? You keep feeding him, and eventually, what goes in must come out. And so Teodane Nadal produces these gifts. And
Do they really say that he relieves himself?
No, I'll tell you exactly how they actually say it. If Teodane Nadal, around Christmas time, there's a tradition where children gather around the little dog and basically say, I'm gonna say exactly what they say in the American translation. Shit log shit. That's exactly what
Boom.
yeah.
Make boom boom.
Yeah. They tell the little so the little doll the log
honey,
produces
how
the
nice.
presents. Yeah.
Oh, what was that, Doc?
Well, honey, how nice.
Yes, I know. So lovely, isn't it?
Well, so now we had spoken earlier about tulpas. I know I've come on the Micah Hanks program multiple times back in the day, talked about my experience with tulpas. Now, longtime listener and good time buddy, Bobby, says, you all ever need any help with some upcoming haunts or anything, let me know. I can hold a camera or a boom mic. Heck, I'm here for you guys as long as it's close by. Now, what I will say, now that I know about this creature, this log that people now that
A living log.
well, no, that's a living tulpa experiment because essentially we could try to project our human essence into this creature, this log creature. Bobby can hold the boom mic and make sure it doesn't say anything or does say something. And we can straight up do a Yule log tulpa experience for the 2022 Hanks Brothers Krampus Extravaganza live in studio.
Wouldn't that be great? Yes, we've got the log over there and everything with a microphone on it and a camera. Every now and then we just cut the camera over there to the Yule log.
And the log's just like,
Yeah, Teodane. Well, he's going to be smiling. And actually, that's the funny thing is that he looks a whole lot like Mr. Hanky, right? Of South Park fame. Howdy ho, little happy little log. That's right, indeed. So well, now we know another peculiar Christmas tradition that probably nobody ever wanted to know. Arlene mentions no ghostly tradition can be as creepy as the elf on the shelf. That is a pretty creepy one.
super creepy.
I don't do the elf on the shelf. Anybody here done the elf on the shelf?
I don't know what that is.
What could
What
you
is
guys
that?
explain that?
I'll
Yeah,
explain.
Tell us
So,
exactly what that is. Yeah, please.
And again, Arlene is right on track with the train of thought for tonight because the elf on the shelf is about the closest American tradition to putting a Robert the Double doll into your home because it's this creepy little elf doll that you just put up on your mantle. And God, Micah, okay, somebody help me out with this. And Charlotte, maybe you know this. What is it Boys in the Hood where it's the old plantation home and there's all the dolls that are coming to life? There's like a swarm of dolls in the old plantation home and they come to like kill the owner of the place.
I'm not sure.
It was like a maybe late 80s, early 90s movie, but it's kind of got the similar vibe that there's just kind of these, like little inanimate dolls that come to life and they want to, because I've always felt that way about the elf on the shelf. I've always thought it looks demonic. I'm not so freaked out by the thought of it now, but when I was a kid, I was like plagued by Chucky. I was always so frightened by this idea of this inanimate object coming to life.
He really messed with you, didn't he?
You really messed with me because you'd put on USA. Hey, now you'd put on USA Network, which a fellow compatriot of ours, Lash LaRue, who made a guest appearance last holiday season. Lash LaRue was on the same channel, and you turn on USA, and Chucky was on there. And I remember him holding this kid down and going, "I'm not gonna spend my life as a plastic freak," and it scared the crap out of me.
Oh, God.
Mothman 46 says Tales from the Hood.
Tales from the Hood. That's exactly it. Thank you, Mothman 46. That's exactly the movie. That was such a surreal and frightening experience and scene in that movie. And Elf on the Shelf is very much the same thing. That thing could come to life at any moment.
Well, maybe I was wrong when I said that these, spectral traditions that used to be as, like associated with Christmas, maybe we haven't entirely lost those because, we just kind of traded in our ghosts of Christmas, past, present, and future. The ghost stories of M.R. James read on Christmas Eve, and maybe now it's Elf on a Shelf, which is like, Warwick Davis on acid and also back from the dead, a corporeal revenant.
Wait, but he's alive.
Yeah, he's still alive. He's cool. And Warwick, if you're out there, please call in. I'd love to hear from you tonight. 828-398-4886.
we really just kind of have a sanitized version of Wiccan practices, so
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
so we're just kind of, we think it's all good, clean fun, but there's stuff that's stuck around, I think.
Oh, yeah. No,
And
yeah, to that point, I mean, again, exactly what you're saying, Charlotte. Yeah, I mean, so many of our Christmas traditions, I mean, Christ Mass, this whole idea of the Christianization of these themes, I mean, many of them are holdovers from pre-Christian eras, what we would effectively call pagan. I wonder what area code 970 has to say about this, who's calling in now to join us. Welcome to the program. Area code 970, you are live with us tonight. Please turn your radio down in the background. What's on your mind?
Hey, Micah, Casper Parks, man.
Hey, Casper. How are you, buddy?
Two ghost stories real quick. Same house. Two different ghosts. I was down in Central Florida. I used to be a disembroidering lighting tech stage manager, work for a band. And it's back in the mid-'80s. And when you go to the house, it was like for the guitar player, it was on the back side of 7.5 acres. There's like a pine forest on one side, abandoned farm, barn on the other is falling over. And then a lake with wild moccasins and alligators behind the house. So it was really super isolated. And it was off a main road, so it wasn't. Anyway, the guitar player's mother was terminally ill. And we would sit there like over break or Christmas or whatever. And she would come downstairs because she was on painkillers and she had cancer. And she'd open and close the kitchen cabinets, mix herself a drink, and then go upstairs. And she'd walk right by us in the living room, and like we weren't even there. Well, she passed away. And I was staying there with a friend, 2 months after she passed away. And they had redone the upstairs. They had a little, what do you call those? An open area before the 2 bedrooms where people put like entertainment centers and stuff like that.
Right.
Or gaming rooms. So they relocated the TV up there. And so me and my friend were sitting there watching the television. We had the 2 dogs there and a cat. And all of a sudden, and this house is really isolated. It's just us on the property, nobody else. And because they had taken off to California, other points in the country. And all of a sudden, you hear the kitchen cabinets downstairs opening and closing like she used to do. And it was just so weird. That happened like at least 2 or 3 times.
Huh.
That was so bizarre. And the house was very isolated. So that was weird. But that was something she had did when we would come off tour. And we hang at the house for a couple of days before we went back on the road. So it's like she's going through the same, if it was her ghost, she's going through the same routine that she went through when she was alive. That sounds kind of weird, I know.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I just realized I didn't have the monitor up there, so hopefully we can fill everybody in there on what was occurring. So, Casper, that's a fascinating story again. And you said that what you described happened essentially on 3 separate occasions.
2 or 3, yeah.
2 or 3, yeah. Yeah, in its own way, I guess a bit of a repeater as well. That's fascinating stuff. And Casper, also, I want to ask you, you mentioned coming in off the road and going back out. What was the nature of the music that you did? What was your band?
Well, I worked with some bands doing the Class A club circuit in Florida. I did lighting tech and stage management. We'd open for, I don't want to say the name of the bands. I don't want to upset the people who get to ever hear the show. I doubt they would, but talking about their mother. But anyway, yeah. So, yeah, but we toured into the Class A club circuit throughout Florida. So we had a roadie that, it wasn't like a real regular roadie. He popped in out when we were close by to help out.
Mm-hmm.
And he took his wife on the property. I wasn't there when that happened.
Mm.
And we were, and it took quite a while before you even found the body. They really knew pretty much had done it. But anyway, so I'm working at a radio station in Florida, and probably good 30 miles away. And a friend of mine was staying at the house alone. Again, isolated, pine forest on one side, barn falling over on the other. And all of a sudden, you saw somebody staring through the window in the kitchen. So he rushes off and goes grabs a shotgun, right? And runs back, and the person moved around the house and went back to the same kitchen window, looked at him. He squeezes the trigger and blows a hole in the kitchen floor with the gun. and then the figure just kind of like vanished in front of him. And he described the person to me. He had never met this individual. And he described the guy that had taken his life on the property in the front yard. It was really weird. Like, it was like more in a ditch where he did that.
Wow.
So, and I don't know if there's somebody actually snuck up. But again, his house was really isolated. You wouldn't know it was there unless you had previous knowledge the house was there. I mean, it, you know, there's a long, long driveway in the back of 7.5 acres with a lake with gators and water moccasins and everything else. It was extremely isolated.
All the best
That
things.
was really bizarre.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That just adds to the environment. Go ahead.
Yeah, it adds to it. Looking in through the window. And now my mother passed away, 2 years ago, and I was over there cleaning out the house. And I swear I looked up, and my mother's husband had died a few years before she had. And I looked over toward the front door, and all I saw was like the silhouette of someone standing there. But it could have been my mother because she was really, really short, and so was her husband. And this guy was like just a silhouette of a figure that was really like a black silhouette of a figure. And the whole room was lit up. I had all the lights on. And it was just there for a second. It just kind of looked at me, and I'm thinking, it looked like a guy to me. So my mother's definitely too tall to be my mother and too tall to have been her husband. I have no idea who the guy was. It was only just for maybe 5-10 seconds that he was there, and all of a sudden it was gone. So I don't know if that was a ghost or what that was.
Yeah.
Or maybe my eyes playing tricks on me. It could have been my eyes playing tricks on me, you know. My mom had just passed a few weeks before that. I was in there cleaning the house out, so.
Certainly.
But
yeah,
that was just bizarre. I'm sure everybody you talk to seems like has a ghost story of some kind. Just about everybody, it seems like.
right. I start to worry when I meet people who don't have one, and that's the whole reason we open the phone lines, and love to hear the stories from people like yourself, Casper. Also good to hear your voice, buddy. I haven't heard it in a while. And, you sent me one of your books a while back, which I still have, of course. And, it's great to hear your voice. Hope you're doing really well. But of course, also to hear those stories. One more thing before we let you go, what you describe in that last portion of the narrative is sort of similar to the idea of the shadow person, which, there are a lot of different interpretations of what exactly that might mean, but I guess that this idea, first came to prominence back in the 1990s, right? The idea of the shadow people, this kind of a dark silhouetted figure. So I don't know if that would have matched, what you described having seen, but it certainly bears at least a superficial similarity there.
Yeah, I don't think I call it a shadow person encounter when I was probably about 15 or 16.
Mm-hmm.
I was working at a summer camp as a counselor, and I was teaching horsemanship. And we had cabin of campers, so probably maybe 9 or 10 kids. And the staff would hang out in the main lodge area and play games or whatever. And I come into the cabin, and there's a broad round hat and kind of I'm trying to use the right word for it. It was almost like a trench coat, but it had like those little the thing in the back where it wasn't like a Western where they were like real stringy, where the rain came off like a raincoat. And he was squatted down by one of the kids, and I looked up at him, and he like looked at me like he didn't expect him to come in through the door. And he shot out the back door of the cabin. Now there's a little brush area that probably wasn't maybe 20 feet of that, and then there was a dirt road, and then a rolling hayfield, and then a bog on the other side of like 5 acres. I chased him out the back door. He went out the back door. Before it closed, I was right out. You're 16 years old. You do anything, right? So I threw out the back door chasing him. And there's no way. I mean, it was a bright moonlight night. There was nobody on either side of the brush. And I went right up to the road, and there was nothing there. It was like completely vanished in thin air. It was just bizarre. But I'm not sure they called it. There's a name for those kind of people within the community. I forget what they called those. They had the broad, round hat, brim, and kind of wearing a trench coat kind of thing. But I never. That's not a ghost story, though. So I'm getting off track.
That's okay.
Thanks,
Hey,
for,
yeah.
thanks for taking the call, though. I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
Casper, again, it's great to hear from you, and I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. We appreciate you calling in and sharing your story. All of them, again, we can allow a little bit of leeway, I guess, on those ghost stories. Anything that's strange and supernatural or close to it here around the holidays. But listen, we hope you had a great one, and we certainly look forward to keeping in touch in 2022. Hope you'll call in again, and we will do this again fairly soon, all right?
All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
All right, take care, Casper. Great to hear from you, bud. Oh, well, guys, as we are kind of wrapping things up here, always good to hear from folks right around Christmas time. But of course, it's a holiday tradition, and it's something that really you can do any time of the year. We don't have to wait until Christmas just to be able to tell ghost stories. But that said, it's been a great theme for tonight. As we're kind of wrapping things up here, I think it's probably about time for us. I mean, here on the East Coast, we're coming up on 12:30. So West Coasters are still kind of finishing their last eggnog of the evening. Some of them are putting the turkey back away in the refrigerator. But again, 2021, I mean, it's scary enough with or without ghost stories.
That's true.
I mean, you don't have to be you don't have to tell ghost stories to see how strange things have been, I think, over the last couple of years. And that's one of the reasons I think it's so important that we're able to really be together, spend time together. So many people have gone through so many changes over the last couple of years, and all having to do with stuff that nobody really wants to have to hear about and we won't talk about right now. The world has changed and it's fundamentally different, but we have so much to be thankful for. If you're here right now, I sincerely hope that you feel the same way. I know I do. And that was a big takeaway for me for Christmas this year. Being able to be with family, being able to, have, I think, an appreciation for the simple things. And again, and to me, that's what's so appealing about those kind of what we would consider to be strange or almost out of place or arcane, the idea of telling ghost stories on Christmas Eve or Christmas night, in our case. I love it. I love it because it reminds me of the simpler times, and it's something that as life seems to get more and more complicated, I love to be able to get back to that simple way of life, that simple enjoyment of taking time off, not watching TV, not looking at my phone, not reading about what happened today in the news. Some days you just want to unwind, unplug. It's hard to do that sometimes.
Well,
the idea of like hearing a ghost story on Christmas Eve, it's incredibly wonderful.
Well,
I mean,
like
I'd
again,
much rather do that.
Every comedian and their podcast and their brother that has a podcast has told the same story. But at the beginning of 2020, I remember being on the phone with my brother Micah and us just saying, dude, I don't know how bad this is going to get, but there is a chance it could get really, really bad. And it did get really bad, but it didn't wipe out half the Earth's population or something crazy like that. We got very lucky with what happened with COVID. But again, things are not back to normal. Things are still very iffy. And all that being said, I'm glad that I could be in the same room with my brother and our wonderful companions here in the bunker. If you ever get a chance to come to the bunker, it's a wonderful place. It's a wonderful experience. And I will just say that, just being able again to indulge in some of those simple pleasures of just sitting together and connecting, even if it is through the computers, and just telling something fun like a ghost story and just getting to feel that cozy vibe that I think we all want to feel during Christmas. That's a wonderful feeling. And Casper, thank you for calling in. And I will say I mirror an experience that you have had, because I was unaware of this, and I'll make this very short. I was unaware of it at the time, but I was supposed to go camping with a buddy of mine, Matt Hickson, best friend for a very long time. And we were, it was during January here in Western North Carolina. It was very cold. And so snow comes out of nowhere, snows us in completely. So we're staying there in the house that he owned, which was his ex-wife's grandmother's place. And I didn't know too much other than the fact that it was his ex-wife's grandmother's place. But everybody goes to sleep. I'm a night owl at that point in my life. And I'm staying up watching NoFX Backstage Passport. And if anybody out there is a NoFX fan, rock and roll.
Ha.
And so I'm watching No Effects Backstage Passport, and every once in a while, I would see what Casper kind of described out of the corner of my eye as a shadow.
Oh, really?
Yes, I did. I don't know if I've ever told you about this, Mike.
No, I don't think so.
So every once in a while, there was a doorway that linked from the living room into the dining room, and the dining room linked into the kitchen. It's a pretty small house, but I would every once in a while see this shadow out of the periphery, out of the corner of my eye, essentially, and it was so prominent in my periphery that I literally about every 5 or 10 minutes would see something move and would, cock my head over and look. And it went on all night long. And so again, I was sitting up just having a couple of beers because we were supposed to be on this big camping trip, and I was just watching TV. Everybody was asleep. Literally every 5-10 minutes, I would just see this form or something pass through. And so the next morning I wake up and I said, Hickson, is this house haunted? Like, is this place haunted? He go, oh, did you see ex-wife's grandma? I said, I didn't see a person, but something kept catching me out of the corner of my eye. He says, was it walking to the kitchen? I said, yep. It kept walking to the kitchen. He's like, yeah, that's grandma.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think that you ever did tell me that, but I will say this, and this is something that's again much. You hear about this a lot, I guess, in like folklore and traditions having to do with ghosts, and there's a whole lot more that could be said about it, but we don't have the time tonight. But I will say this: that I mean, people always say in your peripheral vision, out of the corner of your eyes, when you see these things, and I mean, there are ideas about why that might happen, having to do with the distribution of, I guess, like purple. It's like the rods and the cone cells in your eye, right? And the way that your eye is constructed, the actual cellular structure on the outsides of the eye are more conducive to infrared and can perceive things that I guess infrared vision is most acute there, as opposed to your line of sight direct main focus vision. I'm doing a great job explaining this again.
No, you're good.
By the way, it's 12:30. Okay,
It's been a long day.
it's been a long day. It's
It's
12:30.
been a long day for the Hanks brothers.
Would you do me a favor? Would you do me a kindness? Okay,
I'll do
just
you
cut me
kindness.
some slack here. Okay.
Do you,
But anyway,
guys?
but the point is that I've often wondered if, because in your peripheral vision, that's where you have the most acute night vision, infrared.
You know what I think that is? I think it's because you're not thinking about it. When you're that's where the brain always goes in your subconscious, in your dream states. You find revelations to all different kinds of problems in your own life. You find different answers to questions that you're not even actively thinking about it. That's what the dream process is. That's why I think that we see things like that outside our peripheries, because we're not focused on it. Because
Totally going to answer that
oh yeah, sorry.
question someone had about have we seen this phenomena, but definitely in dream states. Never in person have I seen anything, but yeah, I think we're just kind of in that right state of mind to be open to it.
Yeah, again, I truly believe that again the human brain is so powerful. I don't think that in our waking state that we are able to tap into that power yet. And again, I think that it also kind of taps into this instinctual kind of like hunter thing that we evolutionarily had back in the day that kind of kept us alive. That has taken a back seat now that we've become this more technological era. We used to have so much more natural perceptive ability that we never use anymore. And maybe that is subconsciously reaching out to the next plane, whatever that is.
Oh, I think that's possible. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, when you and I were kids, we'd go get lost in the woods. But I never got lost. And the reason why is because I always had an idea of which direction was home. And,
We called it ninja's intuition.
we called it ninja's intuition. But years later, I actually looked into this. And lo and behold, William R. Corliss actually had entries in his, Science Frontiers, journals that he put together and everything. There were a few science papers from like the 70s and 80s that noted how many people had a magnetic sense, and they could take those people out, and there was a study particularly done in the British Isles where they took them out into the country and had a person, turn around several times blindfolded and say which way's home. And they actually were better able to determine which direction was home when they were blindfolded than when they actually had the blindfold off and still had no idea where they were and which direction was which. They drive them out into the country. This was an actual science study. But these people very much had what appeared to be a sense of, my home is that way. I know which way is home. And more often than would be considered, well, I guess, it was a statistically significant, number of times that this occurred. People actually were able to, in these experiments, determine generally which direction home was. So again, they
Okay,
had,
so look at that though.
right.
Culturally, who did that? Mr. Miyagi. He blindfolded Daniel-san
Oh, yeah.
in the movies
Uh-huh.
because it's teaching you to tap into your instincts. That's exactly what that is. There's a
Right.
reason. It's not just some cliche of like, now you can do this blindfolded. That is cliche, quote unquote, because it is a base. So I keep hitting this lamp. Sorry, guys. It's this basic instinctual thing that we have deep inside ourselves that we have lost touch with.
Yeah.
That is why he's doing that.
Yeah. And I think that, again, that's the fundamental message, whether it has to do with, your extrasensory perception. To me, again, the whole idea of humans being able to detect which way is home, or being able to discern directions based on some sort of magnetic, sense. That's not mysterious. That's not, to me, paranormal. In fact, we have a lot of different species on Earth that do that. We've got, carrier pigeons. We've got different kinds of sea turtles.
But
Virtually
we're
all.
electric creatures.
Yeah.
Like, we have electricity running through
Sure.
everything we do. So we have to tap into that magnetism. It affects us.
And again, it doesn't doubt. I don't doubt that, just like many animals are well known to be able to do today, they tap into, the magnetic field of the earth, and they use that to orient themselves directionally, and they use that to travel and to, carry out their cycles, throughout the year. I'm sure that ancient hunter-gatherers relied on that same sort of a sense. And even if we don't use it as much as our ancestors did, we still, many of us, have that ability. And it's just one of the many different capabilities people claim that they have that we would now call, quote unquote, paranormal, which in fact at one time was very normal. And in the future, with technology, with a better understanding and increased understanding and knowledge of what's happening, it may not be paranormal. It may be normal again one day in the future. Looking ahead to 2022, again, I want to thank everybody for being here and being a part of the program tonight. This has been a great conversation. Christmas ghost stories, and of course, discussing the uncanny that one day may be unraveled. Before we wrap up, I just want to go to everybody here in the studio, our panelists, and talk with you guys really quickly about 2022. What do you have in store, and what do you look forward to? Dr. Krasinski, being our guest who has traveled the furthest to join us tonight, I would like to start with you. Where would you like to go in 2022? What would you like to see happen? What are your hopes, your dreams, your wishes for the coming year?
Oh God, that's interesting. Well, definitely a better situation with the COVID, and we having the chance to go back to what we were before, and interacting with people and stuff like that. But we do have elections in Brazil, and I'm very looking forward for that. Maybe a new president. So yeah, that's what I'm expecting for the next year. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. That sounds an awful lot like, I guess, anywhere in the world, really. Wherever you are, well, a wise man once said, wherever you go, there you are. I'm awful glad you're here, by the way, and that you were able to join us here this evening, Dr. Krasinski. It's been absolutely wonderful having you here. Charlotte, we'll come over to you next. 2022, what are you looking forward to, or what are your hopes, your dreams, and your desires?
Okay, well, I gotta say, I am right on par with Arlene, saying I suspect that 2022 is telling 2021, hold my beer and watch this.
Yeah, that's good.
I love
Very
that
true.
comment. Yeah, no, I'm excited for next year, man. I personally and professionally, and I'm excited to see what happens with all the, UAP stuff, and
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah.
but yeah, lots of new beginnings coming our way. Hopefully gonna do some travel here,
Oh yeah.
like what are we calling you, Dr. Krasinski?
Visiting me.
Yeah. Don't want to reveal too much, but yeah. So excited for 2022.
That's right. The mysterious Dr. Krasinski. Well, I mean, and on the point of UAP, actually, I think that the real challenge tonight was, can we get through an entire show without Micah having to ramble about UFOs?
I can't believe we didn't talk about UFOs.
Yeah,
but
and
it's actually kind of sweet.
It is kind of cool. Yeah, it was nice to talk about ghosts. To hell
Dude,
with it.
That's how we started with this. Well,
Oh no,
yeah.
that was baby.
that's kind of
Puts
how we
itself.
started. But
Well, no, tonight we started with baby doo-doo.
I'm saying like how me and Micah started. Okay, again, and everybody knows the story. There were 3 books. There was Loch Ness Monster, there was Bigfoot, and there was UFOs, and Micah never recovered.
Yeah,
Thanks, Dad. But all that being said,
that's right.
I'll tell you what I'm excited about 2022.
Well, tell me, what is it?
You want me to tell you?
Well, let me first tell you, actually, if you look on the shelf right up there behind you, the UFO book is right there.
Oh my! Oh my God!
Yeah, that's the actual.
Let's
Go ahead.
put that
Yeah,
on film.
Yeah, Caleb actually, he's reaching from the shelf right now, and
Dude, put it on the camera. This is incredible.
yeah, that is UFOs Interplanetary Visitors by Raymond E. Fowler. That is one of those books. Yeah.
This book right here changed both of our lives.
Well, tell them about that for just a moment, Caleb, and I'll show you something else. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I mean, what's very hilarious about my whole journey and this whole thing is that I've basically been, along with Micah for the ride for a really long time. I've always had a genuine interest in UFOs and everything under the umbrella that everything paranormal. I always had a genuine interest. What kind of bums me out at this point in my life is that in recent years, when I was going through my 20s, I was around the likes of Stanton Friedman. I was like talking to Stanton Friedman and genuinely did not really know exactly how much he had contributed to the field of ufology, any of that sort of stuff. I didn't realize the impact of how important he was. I was around all of these people in ufology, and I just I didn't understand the gravity of who these people were and what they had done. So now here I am. I'm a little bit better read about the everything in ufology. I genuinely read about it on my own time and care deeply about it. And now I'm like, oh my God, I was right next to Stanton Friedman and I did not realize who I was standing there next to. So again, like this book right here set us on this trajectory of seeking out the unknown, Bigfoot, everything, you name it. And, I feel like I'm just kind of now starting to wake up to it as Micah woke up to it years and years ago.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey. Now, I'll have to say, Caleb, what does this book right here?
Oh my God. Hold on a second.
So this book right here, now this is, I'll tell you the truth. This is a book that Caleb and I first learned about when we were kids. This is not the very first one that we were given. I had to buy a new copy of it.
You see? Oh, this is a new copy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to tell this on the air and then we can get out of here. But this, dude, this image right here, this image, I'm going to show on the camera here. This image of Bigfoot on the cover of this book. Imagine, so I'm going to put the UFO book right next to it. So this UFO book is old and it's got some age on it. It looks amazing. That's what this Bigfoot book looked like when we first got it back in the day. This Bigfoot, sorry, I'm holding it too close. This Bigfoot image right here scared Micah and I so bad that we locked this book in a drawer and we did not pull it out for 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years. It scared us that bad. And when we finally did pull it out, well, you pulled it out and I didn't know, but like Micah took this damn thing to kindergarten. Micah Hanks took this book to kindergarten.
That was ballsy.
And showed Bobby Justice or Bobby J.
Well, now look, let's get our timeline straight, because if it had stayed in a drawer for 10 years, I was only 5 years old.
I said you pulled it out and you didn't tell me. As far as I knew, it was in the drawer for 10 years.
It might have been in there for 100 years.
It might have been in there for 50. Either way.
Is this the Peter Byrne that we were going to see if we went out
Yeah,
west?
is
Well,
Peter
yeah.
Byrne still alive?
Peter Byrne is maybe 94 or 95, and
He's
yeah.
Is he near Seattle?
Yeah, he's out there. Well, he's out in the Dalles, Oregon.
Yeah.
But I found him online, reached out to him, and we spoke. I actually called him, and we did an interview.
You said he was very sweet.
He was very, very nice. Yeah, I mean, it was incredible talking with him, and he, literally was like, oh, I'm sorry, I need another hour. He emailed me. He says, can we push it back to 3:00? And I said, sure. And I call him, and he says, sorry, I had to go to the pub and meet my friends. And I said, that's okay. I was more than willing to wait an hour, Peter, because this conversation was like 30 years in the making. I mean, he says, oh, okay.
It's like, shut up.
He's like, oh, all right.
Fine.
But I tell you, one of the reasons I'm so thankful that, I was able to talk with Peter and that he's actually still involved in all this is because, again, that book he wrote, The Search for Bigfoot, back in the 1970s, I mean, it was his, at the time, cutting edge research into a topic that a lot of people laugh about and think, oh, okay, yeah, Bigfoot, that's hilarious. Nobody really believes that there's a big monkey running around, though. Well, Peter Byrne absolutely does. And he wasn't the only person that did. Another guy who did was Ivan Sanderson. And this right here.
Is that the?
Now, this is the original, by Jove. This is Abominable Snowman,
Yes.
Legend Come to Life. The cover isn't even on it. Look how horribly destroyed.
Okay, well, I just lied to the audience, though, because I said there were 3. There were 4. There was the Loch Ness Monster book. Do you have that thing?
Yes, it's here somewhere. I'll find it later,
God.
but yeah, check that out.
Look
yeah,
at this. This is one of the books that ruined our lives.
Yeah, you're looking at it right there.
Look at this thing. Dude, does it not look like the Necrogarlicon? It looks like some sort of relic.
That's the Necrogarlicon right there. I mean,
It's amazing.
that's some serious Appalachian
Hold
juju.
on. Let me throw it on the camera there.
Yeah, okay,
Look
so-
at this. This
Look-
book
oh,
is
show the
falling
image on the back.
apart. Yeah. Look at this. That I can't believe. I have not seen, Micah, I have not seen this image. I'm not even kidding. I have not seen this image at least in 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so there it is, an abominable snowman on the back here. He's pulling some sort of carcass.
I'm not sure exactly what's going on.
I don't know
right
what he's
there.
doing in there.
He's like
but so
whizzing on a giant, like,
he's
dead
whizzing.
mammoth
No,
or
he's
something.
whizzing on another dead Yeti.
Yeah,
And
I
so-
guess.
God, that's visceral. And so look at this thing. This is the cover is gone, and this book is just eating itself.
Yeah.
This thing is beautiful.
And
This
you
is the kind
know-
of relic you'd think that Micah Hanks would have been seated by.
And that very copy, actually, a couple of years ago, I went through a period where, I think everything was probably like for everybody else with COVID and everything that was going on. I was just like, God, the world is weird. Everything kind of sucks. And I first started with the Lake Monsters book by Peter Costello. It was called In Search of Lake Monsters. It's here somewhere. I just couldn't find it. And I enjoyed reading that so much. I was like, this was such a nice release,
All the crap.
And then I grabbed the Sanderson book and reread that. And I have to say, after rereading that, it really kind of stoked the fires under me to kind of get back into looking at all of that, the cryptozoological thing, and hence the Sasquatch Tracks podcast was born. So as we round things out, Caleb, 2022, looking ahead, you're going to read all those books too, but I mean,
I'm going to read them.
That's what you're looking for.
What else are you going to be doing?
Well, number one, I'm excited about the new telescope that we just launched into outer space that was $10 billion with a B dollars. So
Yeah.
we saw
The James
so
Webb,
much.
James
The
Webb
James
telescope.
Webb.
Yeah.
We saw so much with the Hubble telescope, and God knows what we're going to see with this thing.
Mhm.
Again, I'm not predicting, but I'm hoping. I hope by the end of our lives, Micah, that it is public knowledge and we know and have made contact with alien life, because there's no way in hell that it's just us.
Oh yeah.
No way in
Oh,
hell.
agreed.
Well, and like you said, again, the James Webb telescope, I'm so excited about that. It is going to, really reveal new vistas. It's going to open new avenues to exploring the cosmos. But, to add to that, something I'm also extremely excited about. I've had the pleasure of talking now on more than one occasion to Dr. Avi Loeb of Harvard University.
Yeah.
And Avi, with the, Galileo project,
Mhm.
He's saying, let's turn some of our telescopes on our skies. Let's try to find these UAP that people are seeing. You know, he says, again, if the government is only able to release so much information like what we saw in the ODNI report back in June, hey, you know, the skies aren't classified. Astronomers like me need to be turning our telescopes on the sky. Let's try and see these things. And let's get a high resolution megapixel image. Let's see if we can see if it says made in Russia or China on it. And if not, you know, then let's look at this possibility that indeed maybe our skies are more frequented by other kinds of technology than we
And
realize.
every single year, the camera in your pocket, listeners at home, is getting more and more powerful. Eyes to the skies. Camera eyes to the skies. You have the power to document anything. Get that out. Do it like a quick draw. Pull that damn thing out like a gun. You can quick draw. If you see something, document. We have the power as the people now with the cameras to do this. The Samsung cameras are crazy. I'm an iPhone user myself. Just use anything. Document anything you see.
Absolutely.
But also, look at a lot of videos of what Mylar balloons look like. Please Google search what a Mylar balloon looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. There have been some photographs that have been reported on by the debrief team and I that, again, for what it's worth, they appear to be balloons to me. But again, the most important thing is that we get everybody filming the skies like Caleb's talking about. You know, film what you see. If you see something, don't just say something, shoot something with your smartphone. That smartphone in your pocket is an incredible tool. And the more data that we have, the better off I think we all are, because as we head into 2022, that's what I want to see. I want to see both the traditional scientists who are now galvanized like Avi Loeb is and who are willing to look at this, but also, you know, the civilian scientists, you know, people like you or I who are interested in these topics, and where traditional academics maybe have felt that they couldn't, or that there wasn't enough funding, or that there just was no maybe interest on their part to look at these kind of topics. Hey, if this is important, get involved. We all have a role we can play. All right, guys, you know what? That's about it. I think we've done enough. This has been another wonderful Christmas event here, the Hanks Brothers Christmas Extravaganza 2021. I want to thank you again, Dr. Krasinski, for joining us tonight and for being here with us. Also, of course, Caleb and Charlotte, great to have you here. And I am Micah Hanks from here in the bunker below ground. Guys, we've got a long elevator ride back to the surface, so I'm going to head to the top. And guys, we wish you all a very Merry Christmas and hope you guys will join us again back here in the bunker again in 2022 for the next installment of the Hanks Brothers Christmas Extravaganza. We wish all of you the very best in the next 12 months. And again, thank you for being here with us. To all, a good night, a Merry Christmas, and we'll catch you guys next time.